Hi, welcome to my dining room, because my dining room is where I have my sampler wall, and so we're in my dining room today. I'm here for an episode of Flosstube, and I thought I would share some of the things I've been working on and some of the finishes I have. I've been having a great time working on a lot of the new projects that I have going on and some of my old projects, and I even got brave enough and started finishing a few things that have been sitting here for a while, and I have them to share with you today. I'm gonna grab a drink of water right away because I'm filming this in the morning. It's the first weekend in March of 2023. I have no idea what day this is going to get loaded on, so I'm not going to give you a specific date, and to be quite honest, it's Saturday and I don't know what the date is because I don't have to, you kind of forget some of those things when it's a Saturday. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share what I have. So here goes. First up, I have a finish. Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I don't get any glare. This is Barbara Anna's All Creatures Great and Small. This was my 2022 New Year, New Start. And it technically wasn't a New Year, New Start because I had stitched like this much, and the lady, when I started it for my New Year, New Start in 2022. But I had decided that I would try to stitch one section, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I would try to stitch one section each quarter of the year. And then that way I had a plan that I would be able to get it finished for the year. And so I did it. And then it sat because I was trying to find a frame for it. I was trying to decide if I was going to send it off. I've gotten to the point that I can cut down frames, and I like to cut down frames if I can because it's so much cheaper. This frame I did cut down. You can see the details of the frame there a little bit, I think. And I got the frame at the thrift store for like $3. My thrift store is super good about frames that are cheap. And I have learned, and I'm going to tell you my secret. If you look at the religious frames, usually are very old looking and very vintage looking. And so I enjoy picking an old frame that is a religious frame if I can find them. And so, like I said, this one was only like $2 or $3. And so I bought it. But then my debate was, I still really like this piece. And I did personalize this piece. Down here, you can see the tombstone. I put my husband's initials there because he has passed away. Here in the Hill of Animals, you can see my beagle is right here. That's my beagle Rosie. And here in the cartouche, my daughter Kayla came up with these two flowers, and then my initials, and then the year 2023 or 2022 when I stitched it. Well, I'm one of those people that my kids actually care about the stuff that I make, and so I really believe that when I pass away, this will not go to Goodwill. I believe that one of my kids will take it and want it. And especially being that it's personalized, they'll want it. So I want to make sure it was preserved. So then I still had to buy some conservation glass or some non-glare glass at least. And so I went to Hobby Lobby and bought a piece of glass to fit the frame after I'd cut the frame down. Well, then it was a pretty big piece. It's bigger than anything I've ever laced before. And I don't love lacing to start with, so it kind of got set aside. I've tried pinning. I love pinning even less than I love lacing. So it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And it was more in my price range for me to finish it myself. Those are my dogs. Getting ready to romp this morning. On the back side, I do put the brown paper, and I put a card here, and you can buy these. They're like a plastic sleeve, and then you can put an index card in there. And on my index card, it says that I put the name of the chart. I put the designer of the chart, I put my name, and then I put the information about the piece. So this was stitched on 40 count vintage country mocha with the called for colors, except the red is anchor 20. I got that idea from Cynthia Brew of Stitching in the Light. She stitched hers with number 20 anchor, and I loved hers, and from the moment I saw hers, I knew I wanted to stitch this. And so it was awesome that she shared her colors with all of us, and so that we were able to copy her. Thanks, Cynthia. So as I said, it was stitched in 2022, and I told you the personalizations I did. And then I usually try to add some kind of just note. And so I wrote, the colors are awesome, had a farming and biblical theme, which so fit our family. And that's very true. I know a lot of people have stitched this and they've left off the church because that wasn't meaningful to them. It's just very meaningful to us. We live in Iowa, which is corn country, and so there's corn here. I had chickens when we lived at the farm. I grew up, I had a horse. I don't know. It just, everything to it is very meaningful to me. I did make some errors. Somehow I got off a stitch up here. So this doesn't completely line up with this row, and so it's a half stitch off, and I just could not figure out where that was. It was probably a case where there was a thin and a thick thread, and I just, try as I might, I couldn't figure that out, so I just went with it. And unless I told you, nobody would know. The bigger problem I did is down here over on this side. As I was stitching, I didn't like count the bottom row of the very edge of the grass there, or I don't know if it's grass or just a line. And so I thought I was done with the row, but I really wasn't. I needed to stitch 3 more stitches, but I thought the row was done. So after everything was said and done, I realized that this house should have been over 3 stitches, and that screwed up the angle of the heel over here. It's all okay, and like as I said, nobody else would know, but this house is really supposed to go all the way over, so I added these few stitches here. And somebody said to me, well, why do you tell people that? Well, the reason I tell people that is so that other people see that it's okay to make mistakes and that your stitching doesn't have to be perfect for it to look good. I think sometimes people get too hung up that it has to be exactly stitch by stitch, exactly like the chart, and it really doesn't. It can still look and resemble without causing yourself a pain in the butt to have to rip everything out. Because at that point, when I realized this, I would have had to rip out all of this, and that's just ridiculous to do that. So I just added the few stitches and made it work. So I'm super happy. I found a home for it. It goes right up there in that empty space, and that's where it now hangs, and I'm super excited. You can see my sampler wall is behind me. I started stitching in 2020 with the hope of having a sampler wall. I've watched Carol Saltbox Stitcher. I've watched Brenda and Laura from Brenda and Serial Starter, and I've just always wanted a sampler wall like they had, and I thought there's no way I could ever do it. And here I am 3 years later, and I'm getting close to one small wall. They have a whole house of it, but I'm getting close to one small wall. So right up there is where this one's gonna go, and so my last spot to stitch something for is right up there. And I think I've picked In All Things Be Exceedingly Diligent from Needlework Press. I think that is what I'm going to stitch, and that will go up in that spot, and then that wall will be pretty much filled. So that starts a new problem, because then I have to know where my next stitching is going to go. I have more wall space, but I just don't know how I want to utilize it and where I want to go next with my stitching. And I have some pieces like I have an antique print of the Lord's Supper that was my mother-in-law's, and like I really want to keep that, so I don't want to take that down. So I was thinking maybe putting some things around it that are more biblical themed. I don't know, we'll just see where I go next, but for right now I'm pretty excited that this wall is filling up. It makes me very happy. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to set this back here. so that it's safe from the dogs. Oh, and I didn't put that in there, but I will put that there. And so the next thing that I got finished is this Blackbird design. I finished up We Live in Hope. And so this is my finish of it. Oh, got lots of glare. Okay, I think there's pretty good. It's really hard. Until you film a Flosstube video, you don't know how hard it is to get things held the right way so they don't glare, but you can still see them, because, you know, I would love to show it to you like this, but obviously the glare doesn't help you see it at all. The chart and the actual finished piece are very different. You can see this is dull, and I wasn't really excited about stitching this because it was so dull. And then the Attic Needlework put out a newsletter last year at some point, and they showed it actually stitched. And it's like, oh my gosh, I love that. I love this bright blue right through here. I just love those colors, and it just like put these to shame. So I decided, oh, I really wanted to stitch that. So I got the chart, and I always intended to somehow, well, I love Blackbird Designs things. And this chart, of all of their charts, isn't one that screamed out, stitch me, stitch me, stitch me. You know, I have ones like Oh Joyous Day and Feast of Friendship that are screaming to stitch me, which I haven't stitched, but this one wasn't like screaming at me. And then at one point I realized that I could, personalize this. And once I figured out the personalization of it, I was head over heels about it, because I love this house right here. I love the ship over here. And I love the words "We Live in Hope." I have grandparents that came from Sweden in the early 1900s. They are on my dad's side, and my grandma was an Olsen and my grandpa was a Johnson. And so I did some personalization in this. So instead of here, the original says Chesapeake Bay. So instead I put Coming to America, and I didn't chart that out first. I just kind of did it. And I used some of the letters up here, and then I used some of her letters from how they designed it with Chesapeake Bay. I used some of those letters so that some of the letters are capital and some of the letters are small, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And then in theirs, they have a little doodad, and then Barb's initials are there. And for me, I just put this in here. I didn't chart it first, but I just stitched that into there. I came over here and I stitched my initials, and then I took that same doodad, only I made it longer, because there was a bigger space between Coming to America and my initials than it was between Chesapeake Bay and Barb's name. And Barb was able to put her whole name, but I would not have been able to put Joe Kramer in there, so I just put JK and then added a longer piece. And then I came in here, and in over one, this is my grandma's information. Her name was Elsa Helena Olsen, and she came on the SS Ivernia. And so that's the ship that she came to the United States on. And then she came into Boston Harbor in 1908. And then this is my grandpa's information. He was Anders Iver Johnson. I have a grandson named Anders, and he was named after this grandfather of mine. And he came in on the SS St. Louis, and he came into New York, into Ellis Island, but I just put NY for New York, and then I put 1902. And then over here, I just put an M, and then I put 1911. And so they were married in 1911. So after that, I had to eliminate a lot of the stuff from the chart. Like I took this off, and I took this off, and I took some of the stuff up here and didn't stitch that either. And I stitched in their information to personalize it. And then, I'm wobbly, I'm sorry, I'm being wobbly. Some of the doodads down here, I replicated them up into this area. I did just freehand a heart and put a heart there. And then I replicated some of the stuff over in here to try to fill in a little bit and just make some more doodads. So maybe if, no, that's worse. Okay, so anyway, I'm super excited. This is a frame that I also bought at the thrift store. This one was, I don't know, again, just a couple dollars, and I was able to fix that one up. And I put a piece of scrapbooking paper on the back because this finished up small. I stitched this on, well, here, I'm gonna grab my little paper in the back here. This is We Live in Hope by Blackbird Designs. It was stitched by me, Joe Kramer, in December and January of 2022 into 2023. I stitched it to honor my grandparents coming to America from Sweden in the early 1900s. It's stitched on 40 count Picture This Plus legacy with all the called for colors. And on the back I wrote, it is to be given to Anders Friedman upon my death. He might not be into cross stitch, but his name came from my grandpa and his great-great-grandpa who came to America as a teen in 1902. So I just try to put something on there that makes it personalized. I try to think of something that I would like to know or say if I was the one that was inheriting it. And so that's kind of what I do with that. For this, I again wanted some kind of conservation glass for it because I do put glass on my stuff. I think it makes it look more regal or more important. I don't know. That's just in my head. I mean, it doesn't make mine better than somebody else's or not because I put glass in or I don't. It's just personal preference. But again, this will go to Anders, and I expect he will keep this. Maybe he won't hang it on a wall, but he'll probably put it in a trunk or something somewhere, and this will be a family piece that is kept. And so I wanted to put some decent glass on it so it can hold its color. And so with that in mind, I again wanted some kind of conservation glass. I ended up going to Custom Frame Solutions, which is an online site. You can buy frames from there, but you can also buy just glass. And by buying the glass from there, it was cheaper than Hobby Lobby, even though I had to pay shipping. It was probably half the amount of Hobby Lobby, even though I had to pay shipping. So I will get glass from there again, because for us, Hobby Lobby's an hour away, and you never know how long it's going to take or if they can cut the glass right away or not. So I will continue to probably order from Custom Frame Solutions unless somebody knows of somewhere else that I can order that might be cheaper, but they're probably about the cheapest, so that I found anyway. So anyway, that's my finish of We Live in Hope from Blackbird Designs. I'm so happy to have it done. And so I'm gonna flip around and put this over here too. That one is hanging in my living room. And because I started another spot that I've been hanging, but I'm only hanging smaller things there. Let me see, what else do I have? I'm doing a stitch along for Scarlet House's Black Dog Sampler. Maybe there, that might be okay. And so that's what that looks like. We're just stitching this over the entire year, so I don't have to be very far along. I figured out if I stitch one letter a week or one motif a week, I will be able to be finished. And so I'm only this far along. I've kind of set this one aside for now because some other things have been really screaming at me to stitch. So I've been having fun with this. I like it. I don't often stitch with silks, so it's a kind of a treat to stitch with silks. I don't love silks so much though that I'm going to probably invest in a lot of silk, but I do like stitching on it from time to time. I like it because it doesn't knot as much. We're actually doing a conversion to NPI silks. I think it originally called for Gloriana's. Yeah, it originally called from Gloriana's, and they're kind of harder to get, especially in a mass amount to do a stitch along. So the shop, Stitchery Nook and Osage, kind of converted it over to NPI silks. This is really a strong yellow, and I don't know how much I love it, so I might get a toned down yellow. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I have not stitched a lot of the yellow yet. I might stitch half and half. That would be a good thing too. I did have a new start. I'm just grabbing these bags. I'm not like putting new starts in one pile and old starts in another pile, or I mean whips in another pile. I have been stitching the 25th day stitch along, which means you stitch a Christmas themed item or winter themed item on the 25th of every month. And so I had this old Lizzie Kate, and it says, "Come let us adore him, Christ the Lord." I am not a Santa stitcher. I am more of a traditional religious Christmas stitcher or a winter theme stitcher. And so I just got a small start on this because I just stitched on it for a little bit, but that's enough for a start. I'm stitching it on Vintage Country Mocha, and I'm hoping to, after a couple months of stitching, this should be done, or I might stitch on the 24th and the 25th one day. And so I'm guessing in about 3 months or so it should be done. And then after that, I'm planning on switching over to this one. And this is, again, is another Lizzie Kate. And this one is Joy to the World, the Lord has come, let earth receive her king. And so I will be stitching this one after I finish this one. So that's my plan so far for Christmas stitching in non-seasonal months, is just to stitch on the 25th, because I don't have a lot of Christmas things. I feel like I stitch a lot of fall, and then suddenly it's Thanksgiving because I don't switch to Christmas until Thanksgiving. And then all of a sudden it's like too late to get much done in December because it gets busy. And yeah, so I'm hoping to continue on with stitching on the 25th of every month so that I can get a couple, that just to even have 2 more things at Christmas for dough bowls and decorations would be awesome. So that's where I'm at with that. Guess what? I forgot something. I'm going to quick show you another pattern of mine that I was working on. And I can't believe I forgot it because it's a finish. So this is Spring Messenger from Scattered Seed Samplers. Scattered Seed Samplers. And this is Spring Messenger. And I've been hosting this as a stitch along on my blog. And I am happy to say I had lots of people stitch along with me. And I do want to do like a little disclaimer. I think people that are new to a stitch along don't understand what a stitch along is. And so typically all it is somebody says, "Hey, I'm stitching this. Anybody else want to stitch it?" And then people just stitch, and you stitch at your own pace and do your own things. Some stitch alongs are a little bit more tight and like tell you, you're supposed to stitch this in the month of May, and you're supposed to stitch this part in the month of June. You typically, with me, stitch alongs, I don't do that because I know that life happens, and life happens to me a lot. And so I don't like to enforce some kind of thing to it. I give people suggestions. Like when I showed you my Black Dog sampler, when I hosted that, as I'm hosting that stitch along, I told people that our goal is to have it done in a year. So here are some things you could do. You could stitch 1 motif or letter a week, or you could stitch 1/4 of it every quarter. And I encourage people to figure out and look at the pattern and try to figure out how that would best work for them. And that's kind of how I do a stitch along. I'm really loose as far as a stitch along goes. It doesn't mean that there's some kind of police or something like that. And so when we were doing this stitch along, I just told people, I'm going to try to have mine done by the 1st of April. And so that I could display it and have it in my home and still use it in spring. And so I finished mine, and here it is. Oh my gosh, the colors of this are absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy with the colors that the designer picked. They're just really, really beautiful together. I did a middle start. I don't normally do a middle start, but I did. When I stitched this, it's finished. I'm going to take it out of the paper. It's finished in an oval, but I didn't know for sure if I wanted to finish it in an oval. I mean, it looks lovely, but I just didn't know if I wanted to finish it in an oval. So I didn't stitch this outside. You could see this a very light border right around the outside. I didn't stitch that because I wanted the option of possibly framing it. because I've gotten to the point I like little frame things. I think they're just so darn cute. Or I didn't know if I wanted to put it on top of a box, because without that oval around the outside, it kind of looks like it could be rectangular too, and that a rectangle frame would work. So I just wanted to give myself options. And then the other thing is as I've been finishing things that are my own, I've learned that if you had an outside line, it just makes anything harder to finish, because that line has to be straight and even. And so I didn't want to make extra work for me when it came time to finish it. So I might finish it in a rectangle frame. I might finish it as a pillow. I might finish it as an oval, but just not have that line around it, so that it gives me a little bit more freedom to fudge. So that's been a fun thing to stitch along with. I have a Facebook group, and I can put a link for that below, that everybody stitch alongs with. Who's doing the stitch along is part of the group. I really enjoy that. Yeah, I'm glad that we did this piece. And I have another piece coming up that we're going to be stitching along with. I think that'll start like mid-April. And that is for Little House Needleworks Home Sweet Home pattern. It's very easy. It's a very basic stitch. It's a really great for beginners. So if you're newer and you want to stitch along with us, I hope you do. I'll have that pattern for you next week, I think, or the next time I film, and be able to show that to you. And the Stitchery Nook in Osage, Iowa, you can find them online at stitcherynook.com. And they are kitting the patterns for us, the kits for us. And so you can order one from them and join along. But for now, that's what I know. And I'm going to take you back to what the video was before. Next up, I am working on the Apostles' Creed. This is an old pattern from Heartstring Samplery. There's a lot of words. If you don't like to stitch words, you probably don't want to stitch this one. But so there's a lot of words in that one. I am plugging along. I'm gonna move this needle. So this is how far I am. There's the top, there's the bottom. I'm well over half. I can't remember the count. I think I probably have about 10 rows left maybe. What I've been doing is I've been stitching one row every week. And I started it on my birthday, December 14th of last year. And then I just made a commitment to stitch one row every week. Quite often I stitch 2 rows, and then last week I kind of am ready for another start. So in order to have another start, I have to have a finish. So I think I stitched all of this last week, which was just awesome. So I am down to the point that I can stitch this little row of motifs right here. So what I think I'm going to do now is stitch like one tree and then drop down, do this little vine, and then start in on the words again. So every week I do a line of words in one of these motifs, come back and do that. That's my plan right now, but I'm like a lot of other people on Flosstube. I can tell you what my plan is, and the week may change or dictate something different. But right now I'm very much enjoying this, but I'm really pushing because I want to get it finished, because one of the new market releases is the Lord's Prayer. And that's from Erica Michaels. And I really, really want to stitch that one. But I told myself I can't stitch that one until this one is done. How's that for discipline? Yeah, I'm really excited that I'm about that one. And I'm glad that, for me, I'm glad that I can get myself to finish one thing before I start all the starts. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a dry throat. Okay, so next up, I haven't gotten a lot of progress on this. This is Come to the Garden by Teresa Kogut. I have a love-hate relationship with this project. I love it, but I have ran into a lot of troubles in the past. Recently, I've had only good things with it, so I'm trying to take that momentum and go with it. It's sometimes hard for me. I am stitching this on Picture This Plus Vellum. And I did have these ironed, but then I put them back in the bag because I didn't get Flosstube filmed, and so it's a little wrinkly again because it needs an iron. So recently, I've told myself that I need to put a piece of thread into this every week because I want to get it done, but I'm not ready to just like commit to it and stitch a lot. I'm just ready for a little commitment, and my little commitment is a piece of thread a week, and I exceed that, but that's my only thing that I make myself do. So since I've showed it to you last, I think I've stitched this motif. I think I've stitched the bird and this motif, put these two doodads in, put this doodad in over here, added a bee. I think there's one here and one over here. It's just slow stitching. I filled in these leaves, and then now I came over here to start this butterfly. I am going to admit, I absolutely hate stitching butterflies like this intense. I will never do a full coverage piece, and I can confidently say I never will because I don't like even stitching this much that's full coverage. I get lost. My eyes from the chart over to the piece, they just don't align for me. And so I feel frustration when I have to stitch something like this. And so I decided I'm just going to go over and I'm going to get the darn butterfly stitched. I know when I did Teresa Kogut's piece, that's right here. Everybody just loves that big moth that's on that piece. And I love it when it's done stitched, but I don't love it stitching it because I don't like to when they have to be mirror images. There's no, one wing has to match this wing. There's no room to fudge. I'm a fudger girl. And so if I don't have some room to fudge, I'm not very happy. And so there's not a lot of room to fudge when it comes to stitching the wings of the butterfly. And so that I got a tiny, tiny start. And so next time I pick it up, I think I'm going to make myself stitch that butterfly. And it really is make myself stitch it. Or maybe I'll just try to get one side of the wing stitched. I don't know. It's probably going to take me a couple weeks, 2 weeks to stitch it because I'm going to need to work myself up to have to stitch it. But after that's stitched, things are looking a little better towards the other things that I have to stitch as far as motifs go. I am liking that I'm stitching this again in the spring because it is really springy and a fresh looking project. And so, yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say, and I've said this before, but I pretty much have to say it every time I show it. My daughter redid the verse on this. It says, "I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses." It's an old church hymn, and I'm planning on personalizing this with information from my dad and my mom and my niece, who all have passed away, and that song was sang at their funeral. The original says, "Come to the garden, thy senses will be overjoyed," but I like it so much better with the church hymn on it, and then it's personalized and more special to me. And again, I really do think that my children will keep the things I stitch. So this is one I know that they would keep, especially probably Kayla, because my daughter Kayla is the one that redesigned the words for me. And those words, you can find them on my blog, joescountryjunction.com. You can find the words, and then you can find a way to, there's a PDF printable that links to the words so that you can print them. Okay, what else I've got going? I think I just bumped the camera. Sorry about that. I decided that I truly have very little spring stitched. As far as things that are stitched for spring, I think I have 2 old Lizzie Kate things, and I don't have anything else that I've stitched for spring, so I really do need to stitch a few things for my dough bowl and for decorations. And so I already stitched from Seasons of the Heart. I already stitched the fall version. I already stitched the winter version, so it's time to stitch the spring version, and I have it started. I'm stitching it on 40 count vintage country mocha. And so, here are my needles in here. I'm gonna, oops, I don't want my needle there. Why did it do that? Sorry. I'm gonna try to put this back. Oh, that's not gonna work. I'm just making more mess for myself. Sorry. Okay, anyway, so this is how far I am. I'm really liking this so far. I was able to stitch this border on the bottom and to the side and these two trees the last time I stitched on it. And I'm hoping that a few more evening stitching and I'll have that one done. I'm really pushing to get this one finished because again, there's another market release that I want to stitch, another Brenda Gervais pattern. I don't remember the name of it. It's the one with the 2 rabbits on it. I just really like that and would really like to stitch that. So I told myself this has to be stitched first before you can start that. And so I pre-ordered that and hope to be stitching that as soon as I can. Okay, the last thing that I worked on since I last talked to you is, oh, and I don't have the pattern anymore. I passed that on. So let me get this out of the bag. I stitched the pin keeps from Brenda Gervais, and so I have them all stitched now. Here's the alphabet. Here's the spool with the tomatoes on top. Here's the single tomato that you needed to stitch to add the buttons to. Here's the sewing bird. Here's the gal with the needle. And here's the verse. My soul is fed with needle and thread. So I stitched all of those. I really went to town and pushed hard to get all of those finished. I can't show you the book because my daughter Kelly asked me if she could borrow my book, and I let her borrow it. And so I need to finish all of those, but I was finishing the big things. So being I was finishing the big things, I didn't finish the little things. It's kind of hard to get all of that done. And so next up I have in my bag, because I've been keeping all of my sewing theme things in this bag. I plan on also stitching this one, which is I Collect. It's from Brenda Gervais as well, with a needle and thread. And it just would make a nice companion piece to these. I also plan on stitching the Pennsylvania Dutch Tomato Pin Keep. And this uses the same colors and same fabric that these used. So I would like to display this together. I'm not gonna put the stand on it. I'm just gonna make it a drum like that instead of having the stand. And then I'm gonna just put that in the display with the pieces that I already showed you. That shouldn't take too long to stitch. And this is what it looks like if you don't make it into a drum. But it's all one color, so that shouldn't take me too long to stitch. I already have the velvet for that, for the top. It's Lady Dot Creates. It's tomato. I got mine at Dying to Stitch. I ordered it from there. So I have that ready to go. I just need to stitch it. I have the fabric in here, the threads in here. I also plan on stitching this freebie. This is a freebie from Lila Studios, and I thought this would go really nice in there. And I'm gonna change the colors so that they're the same colors as the other ones that I just stitched. So that's my plan for that. I'm kind of excited about that because that would make a nice in-between kind of dough bowl, because I think I decorate a little bit for winter, a little bit for Valentine's, a little bit for Easter, spring, but I don't have a lot of spring, but I have a little bit of Easter. So once Easter's done, I feel like I need to switch to something before Memorial Day, 4th of July, and patriotic. So I was just thinking that I might use these sewing theme things and just put the sewing theme things out in that middle time. Or I might put them out after 4th of July, but before fall, because there's that kind of odd spot in there too. So I don't know. Either way, I'm going to have these cute little things to put into a dough bowl at some point. And if I ever get a different seasonal stitch, I'll just move these to be something that is displayed in my sewing room. So I just thought in the meantime, they're a very good filler kind of thing to have. And I'm pretty excited about that. But now I gotta finish them all. I think I have some rickrack. The original ones are shown with rickrack around the outside. And so, yeah, I'm kind of, I've never put rickrack on the outside of pillows, but it's maybe time to learn. I typically don't put a lot of fringe or things around the outside of pillows because I don't know, I'm kind of a plain girl and I kind of like them plain. And then I did some stitching back in the like 80s and 90s when everything was ducks and geese and everything else. And I don't want to do that kind of stitching again. I want to do perennial stitching, stuff that's going to last like forever, that I'll always like, and that won't really be so easily outdated. And so I sometimes feel like if I put too much fringe on or too much stuff on a pillow, that it loses its vintage antique look, and then it kind of classifies it into more of a dated or fad look. So I don't know. That's just what's in my head. That doesn't mean it's true. It's just kind of what I do or adhere to. So that's about all I have to share with you today. I've had a really fun time stitching this last couple weeks. I got some extra time stitching because my daughter Kelly was home and stitched with me. So it kind of allowed me to get more projects going, and I like that. I plan on going with my daughter Kelly. She's my oldest. She's a cross stitcher as well, an avid cross stitcher. My daughter Kayla cross stitches too, but not as much as Kelly does. Kelly has 3 kids at home, and her oldest is just turning 4 today, and she's got 2 twin boys that are younger, so she doesn't get a lot of stitching time, but she does get in quite a bit for how busy she is. We plan on going to the Stitchery Nook in Osage, Iowa on Thursday, and they have their open house on Friday and Saturday for market, but I think we're going to sneak over there on Thursday because Kelly can't go on Friday or Saturday, and both of us put in some market purchases, and we just decided we'd go over there and pick them up and check out and see all the new things. We're pretty excited about that. I'm trying to be good and not get too far out of budget. I did pre-order, I think, 4 things. So next time I come back, I'll show you what I ordered or what I got. I don't think I have anything else for you today, so I'm off. I've got a new foster puppy here. If you saw my last video, you saw my foster puppy Freckles. Well, Freckles went home, and now I have a beautiful Cocker Spaniel puppy. She's 4.5 months old, and she found her home and is going to go to her home tomorrow. So then I'm going to be puppy free for a little bit, I think. I don't know. I just never really know what happens and if I'm going to get puppies or when I'm going to get puppies. So we'll see. I tend to do more fostering of puppies rather than dogs, but I've done dogs too. So yeah, it's a busy life, but right now I have to go run up to the quilting machine. I've got things that need to be quilted. I'm working on a project for my grandson Carver. They have a gala at the school, and it's a big fundraiser, and every class is supposed to make a project for the gala. And so I volunteered to put a quilt together for his class. And then it turns out there's 2 sections of kindergarten at our school. And so the other class didn't have anybody to make something for them. And so they asked if I would make the quilt for that class as well. And so I've got 2 quilts to make, and they are due in just a couple weeks here. So that might interfere with my cross stitching time, but that's okay. I can squeeze in lots of things because that's the way I am. But anyway, I thank you for coming and being here. Thank you for being a subscriber. I really appreciate all the comments I've been getting. I appreciate that you don't have a fit over how many times I say and, because yeah, I swear the camera gets in front of you and all you can do is and. And so that's, for me anyway, I think I just need more experience making more videos. So I'll catch you later. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you stick around and watch to see if I can get this cross stitch wall finished. I have it slated that I'm going to start that piece at some time here, but I just don't know quite when yet. It is the first weekend in March, and I've been doing some Blackbird design stitching always on the first weekend in March, so that might mean a new start for me. I'm kind of excited about that too. So I think I'm going to be stitching the Birds of a Feather from Blackbird Design. A sweet blog reader of mine gave me the chart, and I so appreciate that she did that. That was very special of her, and I want to get it stitched, and I'm so excited that it came out at market so lots of other people can be stitching it too. Yeah, so lots of things to be excited about in my cross stitch world. So thanks so much for joining me. Like I said, I appreciate it, and I'll catch you later. Bye.